Hello, everybody. My name is Beatrice Karlsson, and I work at the program department at Stockholm International Film Festival. Welcome to this conversation with Dasha Nekrasova, the director and co-writer of The Scary of 61st. The film is Dasha's debut feature and is selected for our Twilight Zone section and is nominated for the Audience Award. Thank you for joining us, Dasha. We're so happy to have you with us today.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
From where are you joining us today?
I'm in New York, where I live and where I made my film.
Yes, it's a very New York film. Mm-hmm. So yes, let's get started. You began working on the film with your co-writer Madeleine Quinn quite soon after Epstein's death. Yes. But how did it start? And could you tell us a little bit more about the process and the making of the film?
Madeleine and I had wanted to collaborate on something for a while, but we never had. We've been friends for a very long time. And we were both, like a lot of people in New York and in America, but in New York especially, I think the Epstein stuff we were really obsessed with. Going back to when, even before he died, when he was arrested, we found that to be highly suspicious initially. And so we were already kind of like in the throes of this sort of like Epstein mania. And then when he died, it really just kind of like exacerbated it. And I hosted a couple like Epstein truther meetings in like Union Square Park and stuff. And like, we were trying to sort of, I don't know, find a way of like channeling this like collective frustration into something productive. And that ended up being the film. And that's why, you know, a big theme of the film sort of is futility, because we were kind of running up against like, there really being nothing to do or nothing that really would be like explained ever, basically.
And your film has been compared to classic giallo Italian films and also the classic 1970s psycho horror films. Mm-hmm. But what would you say that was your filmic inspiration for you to make this film?
Well, it is, you know, it's sort of like a love letter to Stanley Kubrick, but that is more thematically in the way that the film deals with power. This will be after the film, right?
Exactly, yeah.
So the no spoiler, the reveal of the film is that it takes place in the Eyes Wide Shut expanded universe. And that was always, back when we started writing it, I knew that I wanted that to be a part of it. But obviously it's nothing sort of formally like a Kubrick movie. I was very inspired by Polanski, by his approach to psychological horror, particularly in the Apartment trilogy, and then especially in The Tenant.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And your film also, it's both the horror genre, but also has a lot of humor, I would say. How did you go about balancing the horror and humor?
It came very naturally to me and Maddie when we were scripting. I think because we were collaborating and we make each other laugh so much, like our voice is really in it. So it wasn't difficult really to balance.
And the film has the Epstein case as a premise, but it's also very female driven and very complex characters. There's Addie, who gets possessed by one of the victims' spirits, and then making her sexuality almost grotesque-like. And then there's your character and Noelle that also are dealing with the feeling of disempowerment. How did you go about to create these characters?
Well, my character is sort of shrouded in mystery and is basically like a proxy for myself. My therapist had an interesting take, actually, when he saw an early cut of the film, that my character and Addie's character are actually like one person. And because Addie is so vulnerable, she becomes like the vessel for possession, and my character is sort of like, you know, doing Vyvanse, kind of like taking on the affectation of like a detective, even though she clearly isn't, but it's sort of like to keep the like emotional realities, the emotional horror of the Epstein stuff kind of at bay.
Yeah.
And yeah, and we just, I guess I'm drawn to like triangulations, to like some of my favorite plays involve like, you know, two characters and a third who like disrupts a dynamic between two people.
Yeah. And I understand that you were very involved with the Epstein case before making the film, and there's the scene shot outside of the townhouse. And for example, you and the Noel character, you go there to get some answers.
Mm-hmm.
And could you tell us a bit more about this choice of including this location and the importance they make for the film for you?
Yeah. Maddie and I were always very drawn to the townhouse. It has a really intense like aura and gravity. And when we started scripting, yeah, we didn't initially think of filming there, but then as we were plotting the progression of Addie's, you know, possession, I thought it would be really kind of powerful to actually like desecrate this space that was the site of like so much suffering and affluence and everything. Because I wanted Addie's possession to have kind of a retaliatory, like rebellious quality to it. Like you said, it hurts that sexuality becomes so grotesque that it becomes like unmanageable, and it like leaks over and has these,
yeah, and it's a very gothic feeling as well with the buildings, and yeah, I think it's,
yeah, well, it has that facade, which is another motif in the film, is like the architecture of the Upper East Side, and particularly like the gargoyles and demons and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the Epstein case has indeed posed many questions and also conspiracy theories, and the film touches upon the paranoia, but also a little bit on the conspiracies. And what would you say are the conspiracies' place in today's society?
Well, I mean, I think the Epstein stuff sort of transcended conspiracy. And, you know, Epstein didn't kill himself became such a powerful meme that was almost like shorthand for how widespread corruption is in our world. And part of the reason why I made the film was because I didn't want that emotional truth to be like whitewashed over. And I'm happy to see that people are still like, I think Epstein didn't kill himself will be like a long lasting kind of idea that we will have a collective understanding of.
And you're not only the director of the film and co-writer, but you're also starring in the film. How was it to direct yourself and balancing these roles?
It was very challenging.
Yeah.
I don't think I would do it again unless there was a very good reason to. And in this case, it was like in the interest of like time and money and everything. And in that way, it's helpful to direct yourself because you know exactly what you need in a scene. But particularly in the finale, when my character is like in a heightened state of hysteria, it's very difficult to like split your attention. But I had a really fantastic team. I had a great AD. I had a really good cinematographer, Hunter Zimney, who I really trusted. And that helped a lot.
Yeah, because you shot the film and it also premiered during the pandemic. And was there any other challenges in making the film and the experience of doing this during the pandemic? I know New York was very hit hard by Corona in the beginning there.
We shot the film before the pandemic. We shot it in January of 2020.
Okay.
So we wrapped in late January, right before. And in hindsight, yeah, it does feel very fortunate that we made the movie as quickly as we did. And that was partly in the interest of making the film. The film is set during Christmas time, so we wanted to capture as much like Christmas ephemera that we could while it was still up in January, and then scheduling and stuff. And yeah, I was just very motivated to make the film basically as quickly as I could. And then when the pandemic happened, I was glad. And then Sophie Cora, who came on as my editor, was also like another kind of like COVID blessing, because we would have never been able to afford to pay her to work on the film if she had like really nothing to do. So that summer of 2020, I came to Los Angeles and cut the film with her. And then we did some pickups in August. And then that way the pandemic also was helpful because we shot on the subways. And yeah, so I wasn't hindered at all by COVID. It's actually only been good for me.
Yeah.
But it's been like a little lackluster not to be able to. I only saw the film with an audience for the first time recently because all the Berlin premieres were virtual, and that part has been difficult. No, it's felt a little anticlimactic, I guess.
And how was the first screening that you had now with an audience?
The first indoor screening was at our premiere in Los Angeles at Beyond Fest. It went great. Yeah, I think my movie in particular plays, I think, very well with an audience, because it is kind of like, it has the elements of camp and kind of like horror that I think are more fun to watch collectively.
To wrap this up, we're very big fans of your work, and we're so happy to screen your debut film at the festival. And therefore, we're obviously very curious to know if you're working on something new that you would like to tell us about.
Yes, I have a new script that's also genre that I wrote the first iteration of like probably 4 or 5 years ago. It's also a genre movie, but it takes place in the aftermath of the American Civil War. So it's like a period piece. It's a bit like maybe Texas Chainsaw Massacre meets like Hellraiser meets like The Beguiled would be my like.
Sounds very promising.
Yeah, it's called Total War.
And you will not stare in this one.
No.
And but yeah, so thank you so much for joining us today, and we're so happy to screen the film, and we wish you the best of luck with your new project, and hope to welcome you in Stockholm in person sometime in the future.
I would love that. That would be awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.